Hello everyone and welcome back to the RedSeaPodcast. Sadly, I am more than likely gonna be out and out solo today, but yeah, we'll be back soon. You all know how hard intercontinental timing scheduling can be, of course, but I couldn't miss being here to not only talk about the news going around, but of course, the absolutely incredible, at least, second half that we just had the pleasure to witness, especially from a certain someone that we will get into very, very soon. But now, uh, first of all, shameless promo, as usual. Uh, if you're new, because I have the great pleasure to say that the show keeps growing each and every show and keeps reaching new people and new audiences each and every show, and that's happening here on YouTube as well, which I am honestly the happiest about. If you are new, if you're watching for the first time, first of all, welcome. Secondly, don't be afraid to go and look down in the description. You'll find all the socials that you need in regards to this show, and of course the YouTube itself. If you like what you see and like and subscribe, has a huge backlog of content, vlogs. By the way, a random thank you that I wanted to say, even last week, what I forgot, the Aston Villa vlog from last year, which yes is still one of my favorite, if not my favorite videos to have up here, may be contested with the cup final vlog. I'd say the UCL final vlog was unique, but I don't like how it turned out edit wise. But the Aston Villa vlog had a great resurgence recently, and right when it was around 6K, I think, it's now closing in on 10,000 views and fast. So if you want to reminisce about our absolutely wonderful experience in that Aston Villa home game, do go check it out. And thank you so much for the support, not only on the new stuff, but on the backlog of content as well, and especially the vlogs. As I said, my motto is always the best has yet to come because I do want to keep constantly improving in every aspect for you guys to give you back the support that you're giving me honestly tenfold and then some. And if all goes well, a random reminder, as I had announced a few weeks ago, tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, the Red Sea Chronicles will be back with a very, very special guest. And if you are wondering what the Red Sea Chronicles is, do go check out the playlist on the channel. But in essence, it's something that I've been told is a very unique idea that I basically started in our space, and I take great pride in that. It's interviews not with players necessarily or not with anyone from the sports world, but other creators to give them a chance to come on here, talk about their journey with football, their journey in their fandom, talk about Olympiacos, of course, and in general talk about what they do and let them just spread their project to my audience, which is you guys, which is the best community ever. There are interviews there with a great friend of the show that I had the honor to host the first episode on, and that's the Football Stadium Show. There are interviews there with arguably one of the mentors of the show, and that's Viola Nation, Ari from Gate 7, from Thrylos 7 International, I apologize, is on there, which is one of my two favorites because with uh, the football stadium show and with Tito from Viola Nation, I mostly saw those guys as a great friendly opportunity. But with Ari and with Steve from Hellas Football, those were surreal to me. So do go check those out. And tomorrow, again, God help the scheduling lands because you know that last minute changes do happen. We'll have another very, very, very special guest. And I'm happy for that series to be back as well. Now that the general talk is done, let's talk some football. And honestly, let's start with the game. And I want to get into general news later. Of course, the first thing to talk about in this game is the fan presence in Panthesalico, which no one had any doubts, really. I don't know anyone who didn't think we dominate. I'm pretty sure I was a bit overestimating the fan presence last show when I talked about it. I'm pretty sure we were 13,000, and I don't think the people there who always deserve applause stopped yelling at the absolute top of their lungs, even for a single minute. And the highlight that I do want to go on and mention fan-wise is, of course, the that Chiquinho finally held his name from the stands. That's something that a lot of fans wanted to happen. That's something that a lot of fans thought deserving to happen. And after arguably one of his best performances in his time at Olympiacos, it happened. And of course, Chiquinho, God Chiquinho. I did bring up the talk that along with Ayub El Gabi, but edging out a bit in front in that category, Chiquinho may be the biggest bargain of the club's history. Because, mind you, a reminder, the fee we paid for Chiquinho was just to bring him in early from a pre-contract, and it was half a million, 500K. And that 500K in normal market value, let's call it that, wouldn't even cover Chiquinho's left shoe if we take in effect his true quality. And to use these words a bit, you never see what Chiquinho did today. You rarely to never see it, but from a player of the quality of Chiquinho, you're not shocked because you come to expect that. You come to expect such footballing magic because that was football. There is no other word to put that instead of footballing magic. But you come to expect that from the quality of the Chiquinhos of the footballing world, which aren't many, which makes it even more insane that Chiquinho is here. Chiquinho is always one of our most consistent and best players. Even when he's having a bad day, he'll come in with a 40 at some point. We know that. We've seen it before. Because as I've said before, for some of our players, a bad day for someone doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. Because the standards that some of the squad has comes to show that a bad day for someone like Chiquinho, for example, is a good day for a lot of other players. That says a lot. Of course, going into the details of the match, Olympiacos scored late, again, not as late as Asteras, but late, and beat Volos 2-0. Of course, the deadlock was broken by the goal of the aforementioned magician of football, Chiquinho, whipping it. I'm pretty sure it was Strefezza getting his first assist for Olympiacos. Let me actually go on and check that really quickly. It was Strefezza. Yes, I am correct in that. Strefezza getting his first assist for Olympiacos as well. With the new boys in general gelling very well with the team, but we'll get on to that as we talk about the game. Strefezza whipping in across and Chiquinho pulling one of the absolute coldest and nastiest backheels that I have personally ever seen an Olympiacos player do, to slot it into the bottom net opposite of where he was. So the second post, bottom net, with Schiabanis for what felt like the first time in the game being unable to do absolutely anything at all. Because I don't know a keeper in, I don't know many keepers in European football that could come to save or even expect such a shot. I don't know if there is many players that can create that opportunity for themselves, let alone do it twice in a game, but we'll get into that right after. So with another game, another incredible goal, and what was another incredible play, and another incredible sign of teamwork in general. Olympiacos take the lead, break the deadlock from a team that was desperate to keep the nil-nil, desperate enough for a defender to bump his own keeper, for the keeper to fall down, and then to gain some extra time, which is still absolutely mental to me. And then, what do you know? Chiquinho does it again. Same play, same back heel, but this time Rechos gets a foot in to score it himself and make it 2-0 at the 85th and kill the game completely. Thank the gods above that game got killed completely, right? Because for a while, for the first half, it was looking worrying. Like, let's not lie, it looked like a similar performance to the Asteras game, with the only difference really being that we didn't really dominate possession as much because Volos weren't really that drawn back, even though it was a clear low block. Volos didn't just focus on the counter and they tried to build up their chances, even though aside three incredible Jolaki saves that didn't really come to absolutely anything. But it was the same. It was crosses when there shouldn't be, and just that each that we were talking about last week, that needs to be more direct in our attack. Uh, don't get me wrong, some stuff that Shabani saved was absolutely unbelievable as well. But for example, the most direct attack that we had was the Nascimento shot from right outside the box that forced a world class save from Schiabanis that showed that it's Volos for crying out loud. I am gonna quote Gav from last week and say that you can beat these players if you take them on. Like the quality that you have in your arsenal is miles above the quality that Volos has. It's miles above three-fourths of this league minimum. So we need, it's not that we need to ditch that mentality. We need to adapt. If we see this, we can't just waste 40 minutes just tossing crosses in and finding absolutely nobody with them. I don't know if it was that bad as it was last game. Let me actually go see how our cross situation was, if I can find it. Because last game, if I actually do remember correctly, we had like 50 something crosses and 34 in, in the first half. It wasn't as bad as last game, as expected, with saying that Volos didn't really. It's not that they didn't let us. Volos weren't as bad as Asteras in just staying back, giving us the entirety of the field and just playing terror ball in counter attacks and stuff. It was 7 out of 27, which is still bad, but nowhere near as bad as it stood to be last week. The goals, of course, came due to quality alone, that we knew was there, but that's still just a bit of a trouble in the way that we should really be able to go in and break these teams earlier and not just be on the verge of a damn heart attack every time we are nil-nil up until the 75th and are hoping for goddamn prayer. Of course, credit needs to go to a lot more players and not just Chiquinho, but he was the man of the match. Like, come on, you can't even stand to dispute that. Even though up until the goals, there was a lot, the goal and the assist, of course, there was a lot of discussion, which I will mention and give basically an honorable mention to. But in the MVP stands clear, and apologies for the hiccup. The MVP stands clear, and I don't think that there is absolutely anybody who would stand to dispute that in any way, shape, or form. Right now, to quickly go through the 11 and to analyze some performances. And the first one is perhaps one of the most impactful of this one in ways that we come to expect, but still shock us in all the best ways, honestly. And that's, of course, Kostas Zolakis. Kostas Zolakis, who is proving himself as one of Europe's and honestly, why not the world's best goalkeepers. Kostas Zolakis, who is proving himself ready for greatness, destined for greatness. But it's not just Zolakis' talent. Zolakis works day in and day out, game in and game out to improve every single bit of his game and every single minuscule flaw that he may still have. And there is no, I think that's safe to say that there is no Olympiacos right now, and there is no Olympiacos history written in the past few years, at least that being without Zolakis under the stick. Making more world class saves than perhaps were necessary against a team like Volos, which started around the 10th minute, if I'm not mistaken, with a quickly taken Volos free kick that got lobbed and then a volley that I'm pretty sure if you put the same player to do that volley 100 times, he wouldn't pull it off even once. That if it was most other keepers in the league would have lobbed them, but Zolakis just did perfectly and knocked it above the net for a corner in a magnificent, spectacular, call it any way you want, right? Now, second unbelievable save, which for me is even harder than the first, cross comes in from Volos, and Migas, I'm pretty sure, was left all alone at the back post, heads one in, down in the bottom corner, seemingly going in, but little did he know and little did everyone know, Jolaki saves it with his foot, which god damn. And then in the second half, uh, after we have taken the lead, of course, but you never know, Volos come in from the right wing, and then a shot that was once again seemingly unsavable by most is saved with one hand by Jolaitis. And I'm gonna use the quote that the speaker himself said, a very Manuel Neuer is saved. Because again, as the speaker himself said, it's not only the reflexes that you have to save basically a kill shot from 1 meter in front of you that's going seemingly behind you. It's not just the speed that you have to raise your hand, it's the strength that you have to have in your hand to just keep that ball out and to not let it just completely knock your hand because from that distance that's like saving God the rocket. So again, one of the MVP honorable mentions, but Chiquinho is Chiquinho. Down the left, down the left, down the left is someone who we've called the weakest link of the team. Down the left is someone that has stirred a lot of conversation, especially after the Champions League draw. Down the left is Francisco Ortega. Ortega, who, if we're being honest, opened up the season very well. Ortega opened up the season very well against the Spurs. But today he stood out. That whole left side stood out, especially comparatively to the right one. But Ortega stood out. Ortega made a lot of mistakes, with his most notable one being the fact that he completely lost his man for that cross that Zolakis had to save with his foot after that Migas header that could have put us behind. That's the main thing to keep in mind. That cross would have put us behind in the game. And in general, those little mistakes here and there, those mistakes here and there, that's something that won't cost us against Volos, but that's something that will cost us dearly against a bigger team. Not saying he should be sold. I'm not trying to disrespect Francisco Ortega because Ortega is a vital part of our history and team. I'm just gonna stand by the argument that I had made ever since preseason didn't even start, I think, ever since the cup final around there, that Bruno in the Super League, don't get me wrong, should get a streak of games as a starter to prove himself, and then the decision should be made for what is to happen in Europe. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll drink a bit of water because I am talking too fast. But yeah, I don't think that's that insane of an argument. I've seen a lot of people make it, seen a lot of people defend Ortega, seen a lot of people saying that we straight up need a new left back. Of course, the conversation did come up with Tsimikas, but Tsimikas made an incredibly career choice. Like, let's not lie to ourselves. Roma, it's a wonderful choice. It's not like he chose a Saudi over us or a team that's clearly below us. He chose Roma, in which, of course, Greek defenders have had wonderful stints. Don't forget that. There was a conversation about Giannoulis. At some point, River were after Ortega, but at the stage we're at now, and with the priorities the team has now, I don't see Ortega leaving this window in the last few days of this window. And of course, it's not that the window is going until the 12th of September. We need to remember that the list needs to be submitted on the 2nd or the 3rd of the month, if I'm not mistaken, which is in a few days. So I don't see Ortega going. So the situation needs to be sorted, and Ortega needs to realize that he has out and out clear competition behind him and show the form that he did when he was at his best. Because Ortega has shown a lot in an Olympiacos. The thing is that perhaps he needs to be reminded that he has competition, at least in the Super League. The old reliable duo of Lorenzo Pirola and Panos Rechos, both incredible. Rechos again edging out Pirola a bit, but Pirola is himself looking even better than he did last season, and he's looking more than ready for the very tough season that's coming up. But Rechos is Rechos. I never got how people even began to doubt that Rechos can be the one to lead us into this season. He made one little notable mistake that he lost his man, which led to a one-on-one threat near the start of the game again, but he himself corrected that mistake. And then he had as incredible of a game as he had against Asteras, especially in the first half, signing more than an underwhelmingly performing team and being a rock in the back. Only this time he came in to the splash a goal. Every time this man gets hit in the head, I feel like he upgrades to a better and better prime defender. We made a joke on Twitter that now Bretos has upgraded to prime Sergio Ramos. Rodinei. Rodinei looked a bit out of sorts as well. You can't really find his footing for some reason. His set pieces look a bit weaker than they even did last year, which they weren't great. But Rodinei is Rodinei, and we all know that he will find his amazing form again. He was our biggest creator last year, and he won't be far from that this year either. I'm more than certain of that. And I don't think that there is any human reason in the slightest to go out and doubt that Rodinei can perform from us. But, and there is the surprise I was talking about. Hello, hello.
Hello. Sorry I was a little late.
I have I have barely gotten through the defense of the 11. I just completely rambled on about stuff for the show, so I barely talked about the game. How are you, first of all?
Can't complain. I mean, luckily we're joining again for another discussion of a win. It seems like it was going to get a little hairy there, but we figured it out.
Exactly what I said. It reminded a lot of last game, but in a bit of a different detail. The things that I have more or less gone over is just general performance details, Chiquinho, and everything about Chiquinho, which I will let you just talk about however long you may want, and the incredible saves Zolakis went on to make, Ortega's relative weaknesses, and the conversation of who should start between him and Bruno, and the centre back duo, and specifically Regis. So give your general thoughts on the game. That's on what I said. Then we'll move with the 11.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it was similar to last week, but I think we were tested a lot more on both ends. I think Volos were a more difficult team to break down. I think they're a slightly better side than Asteras. And they also, well, they mostly played in the low block. When they did get forward, they were a lot more dangerous. And that kind of leads into the conversation about Solakis, who was incredible today. I'm sure we'll talk about later. Him and Chiquinho, in my opinion, were the MVPs. I think it's hard to separate the two. I mean, Kostas Solakis today, if it wasn't for him, there's a very decent chance we draw or lose that game, even with the 2 goals. I mean, some of the saves he made today were just incredible. And, we were talking about that in private while the game was going on. I mean, a lot of times when goalkeepers are not tested regularly, like he is through these sorts of games, they tend to turn off and really struggle in those situations when a very good chance does come forward from the other team. But he's never ever shown that, which I think just continues to speak to the level of player that he is. Um, and I think for the most part, going forward and creating chances, I think we definitely did look a lot better today than we did last week, especially in the second half. I think in the second half, if that's how we can play consistently, I think we're going to be just fine. Nascimento had a great game. Obviously, Chiquinho had a great game. The wingers again were very good. So I think overall there's a lot of positives. I think it's good that we're being tested like this early on in the season because it gets you prepared for further adversity, and obviously it's going to be a very different sort of match once we get into like the Champions League or once we start playing derbies. But it's really good signs that already early on in the season we've come out of 2 very difficult games pretty comfortably, and we pretty much looked in control the entire time.
What I mostly did say about Volos is that it's not that they are that better of a side than Asteras, because I don't believe they are, but it's that they don't play that Greek absolute terror ball that Greek coaches play, and it shows that they have a foreign coach, because yes, they did stay in the low block, which does show the quality difference, but they actually did try to build up the attack, which led to the 3-4 chances that Solakis had to pull magic saves, and I especially pinpointed the chance where Ortega just completely missed his man, and Zolaki saved the header from Mingas with his foot, which was for me one of the best saves we'll see this season, easily, easily. But even then, it's as you said, it's details like that just point out weaknesses that you may not even know can be pointed out in in the Greek league, for example, because I didn't expect Zoulakis to have to make some of his best saves today. I said that as well. It was perhaps a bit unnecessary and a bit on the fault of the defense, but that's a whole different conversation. But it's good. It's good, especially with having Panathinaikos next game and then having to go to Leoforos to face Panathinaikos early on. It's better to get everyone just up to speed as fast and as brutally as possible. You did talk about him. He was the next person I was going to talk about. He is someone that's impressed me a lot in both games. He is someone that's been criticized very unfairly, and I've said that before and I'll say it again. And as with Zolakis and as with Retsos, he was in the conversation for MVP for a while, up until Chiquinho did what Chiquinho does. And then my MVP has gone to Chiquinho cleanly, just completely cleanly. And that's, of course, Diogo Nascimento. Nascimento, who, when I first talked about, I apparently left out a lot of things, because how I saw Nascimento, of course, different quality, especially the second division of Portugal. But how I saw Nascimento was a transition player. Like in pure out and out FIFA terms, it's the anchor player in the midfield. I saw him holding back, just cutting and stealing the ball from when you least expect him, using his body, using his pace to track back, to stop counters, to stop one-on-ones, which he does do. But what I didn't expect from Nascimento and what I didn't see from Nascimento and how I've been surprised the most is his attacking activity. Because when you least expect him, he's there to either draw the foul that he did from outside the box, to almost score an incredible goal, which as I mentioned, was our only direct attack, and it almost went in, which is something to talk about, as we had last week as well, with the need to attack more directly in these teams and just pick our plays more and not just spam crosses, which I checked earlier, it wasn't as bad as it was last game. It was 27 and not 54, but still only seven were successful, which is 24%, I'm pretty sure.
And all,
But as I was
all
saying,
7 of those probably came in the last 5 minutes.
yeah, for sure. Not no two. Two of those came in the last 5 minutes. No, two of those came in the last 20 minutes for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And what I'm liking a lot from Nascimento as well is that under Mendilibar, because that's something that he never really had in his career as far as I have seen again. He has confidence to just take the ball and run with it. Those those passes with Chiquinho, those 1-2s with Chiquinho, last game as well. I pointed it out last game as well, but especially this game. Those 1-2s with Chiquinho, that shot, the runs up and down, plus his stamina seems absolutely endless. He's, I feel like he was up until he just stopped. I feel like he was running up and down and up and down constantly and always with a purpose, always doing something. It wasn't just pointless runs like some players may make. Just I'm very, very pleasantly surprised again for a player that didn't come here to start any games.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed by him again today as well. I thought he was good last week too in his cameo. I mean, what he kind of reminds me of in the role that he's filling is the role that we saw Christos Mouzakitis fill a lot last season, being sort of like that almost box to box where he's going to do it on both ends for you. He's a similar build. I think both of them have a similar flow to their play. But I would say that, you know, as far as getting more directly involved in the attack, obviously we've seen Mouzakitis. He thrives as like that deep lying playmaker that can ping balls over the top and open up opportunities in that sense. Nascimento brings the different angle of, like you said, you know, being really able to like link up with players and cover a lot of ground and, you know, be direct. So I mean, I think that he adds something to this team that from midfield, other than, you know, maybe Chiquinho, we don't really have. And again, you know, he's still so young, so so far at least represents just another really smart bit of business and scouting from Olympiacos, because I mean, this is a guy who can come in and either be a very good midfielder for us for the next 5, 6 years, or he's going to be our next 10, 15 million euro sale. So I think the upside there is huge. And the fact that he's been able to basically slot in immediately. And I mean, he kept Christos Mouzakitis off the pitch today, and I don't think that was unwarranted. I think really the reason he played for the 90 is because you couldn't take him off. I mean, he was just so good.
There was no way you could take him off, and that's why I pointed out that he just kept going and going and going. And you thought that he came off the bench like last game. You wouldn't, if you didn't see the entirety of the game, you wouldn't guess that a player that up until the 90th goddamn minute kept on running like that, kept on going for the ball, even when we found ourselves up 2-0. He kept being absolutely everywhere, which again, using his frame and body to his advantage unexpectedly more than anything. Sadly, though, to reel it back in for something a bit more negative, as a duo, he doesn't work with Garcia either. Sadly, he doesn't work with Garcia either. It doesn't help that Danny was more on the mediocre to awful side today, sadly. But that we need to just find the perfect tools for this game. It's one of the only issues that we talked about last game as well. Danny just doesn't seem to just easily work with uh, midfielders like Musa, like Nascimento, and so on and so forth. Right? It feels like Danny needs someone like an Esse in from the start to just cover the pace that he doesn't have, to just cover the passing that he doesn't have, to be able to go forward. And it's the only annoying thing from today because even with the lack of direct attack, even with the lack of creativity in the first half, we saw that we fixed that again. But I don't see that duo just working at all. I had some hope for the duo of match they want to work in Europe. This one I don't see that.
I mean, I think from what we've seen so far, and this might sound bad, but I really don't mean it as such. I really think Danny Garcia needs to be an off the bench situational type of player. I mean, I think had Edza started and we brought in Danny Garcia towards the end once we had a goal and once we were defending a lead, I think that would have worked better, and I think he would have come in and made more of an impact because like you said, he does a lot of work cleaning up the midfield and stopping those breaks of the lines of teams getting forward. But when you're trying to go and score a goal against a team who's so willing to sit back, Danny Garcia is not going to help you. And if anything, he's going to be a hindrance because he's playing towards a different need than what Olympiacos have. So, I mean, I think there might be a real chance here that, barring injuries, he might have to transition into that role, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's super important to have someone like that who could come in and shut the game down when needed. But like you said, I mean, it's just he doesn't really fit with anybody. And not only that, in a lot of these games, we don't need that kind of player. So I think it's sad because Danny Garcia always comes in and he gives us everything. I don't think anyone has ever been able to question his effort or the intensity that he plays with. But he's not the right kind of player you need for most of a game when you're basically having to throw everything towards another team for a goal because they're sitting 10 men in their own half. So like you said, it's a little frustrating, a little annoying, but I think that's a tweak that Mendilibar, and I'm sure he will, is going to have to make if we're going to continue to progress from here.
I'm sure he'll make it as well. I have no doubts that he will. It's a lot of factors. It's the fact that Esse was coming off an injury and is slowly getting his rhythm back. It's the fact that Scipione, I think it's the more direct and a bit more active and direct Garcia replacement needs time to adapt to Olympiacos and European football. And in general, I think Garcia will slowly drop back, but I don't think that he has any issues with that himself because, as you said, and as we have seen many a time, even when Danny comes off the bench, he's even more impactful sometimes than when he starts. Because when he comes off the bench, you either need to defend, lead, or you need your entire team to attack and one or two players to sit back and provide you that safety that won't falter in any way, which usually was Pirola and Dan Garcia. And that's how I see this season going as well. I just get why he starts now because I think it's not purely out and out a tactics choice. It seems like an adaptability choice for the new boys as well. As much as they have gelled, they still need time because before they just completely out and out come and start pulling 90s. That's why, for example, Nascimento was first tested in Volos and not in a more importantly for a full 90. And that's why I'm sure we will more than likely see Scipione start. Uh, God knows, is the next game before the national break?
No, the international break is this next week into the following. So we won't have a game next weekend. It'll be the following weekend. So 2 weeks from today or tomorrow will be our next game.
Okay, so in 2 weeks, where we play Panathinaikos, if I'm not completely mistaken, I'm more than certain that Scipione will be tested for, if not a full 90, at least as a starter. Someone that I do want to talk about a bit more is Preponides, which again proved me a bit wrong very sadly without wanting to completely deep into the game, and proved a point that you had said last week that some players perhaps get a bit more anxious when the stadium is full rather than empty. And that's what Pneumonides showed today. And I'm not even saying the chances he missed. I'm not even talking about the chances he missed because, okay, one of the shots was straight as Yabanis, but the first one where he saved with the edge of his foot was just Yabanis transforming into prime maker because of course he did, as we talked about it on Twitter a bit. You said Lev Yashin and I couldn't stop laughing for a solid 5 minutes. It's insane what Greek goalkeepers specifically do when they play us. But what did you think about Pneumonides in general today? Because it's not that he looked bad, because I don't think he looked as bad as people made it out to be, but he looked way more uncertain than he did on his proper debut.
Yeah, I mean, I said it in my post match tweet, and this is probably going to be a hot take. I thought he was very good today. I mean, I definitely agree that he seemed a little shakier than he did last week. But even then, I mean, he was still getting very involved. He, like you said, he had a couple chances in the first half. Could he have taken them better? Yes. But again, I mean, I think part of judging the performances of a guy like Panathinaikos is understanding that this is his first season in senior football. He's still a teenager, right? So when I judge him, I'm not going to judge him the same as I judge Gelson Martins, as I'm going to judge Gabriel Sterfetza. It's a completely different category. And I think despite the fact that, again, he didn't necessarily look as dangerous as he did last week, he still got very involved. He still had two chances of his own. And then in the second half, before he came off, he had a very, very, very good pass into Kaabi, which was, again, unfortunately saved. And he was still very active in that first, I think it was 15 minutes before he was subbed off. I personally, that's what you're looking for from him, right? Like, we're not expecting him to come in and be a regular starter. We're not expecting him to come in and be one of our best attackers. But if he can come in and he can be serviceable and he can look not out of place whatsoever among the rest of the team. I mean, there were 3 or 4 guys that started for us today who looked significantly worse than Stavros Nemonidis. So, I mean, again, that to me, that is an excellent performance from a teenager in his second ever league game, right? So that's the way that I judge his performance. Again, I mean, remember Babis Kostulas last season? I mean, his first game he started against Volos in our opener of the season. I think he had a worse game than Stavros Penamonides today. I mean, that's me being honest. And look at the season he went on to have. So I think again, people need to keep that in mind when they're judging his performances, and they also need to be patient in the sense that, like, listen, this is game number 2, and he has yet to really have a game where he looked like he didn't belong, where he wasn't playing well. Even on a like 6 or 7 out of 10 performance, he still contributed and he was still giving us chances. So personally, for me, I enjoyed him again today. It wasn't necessarily as good as last week, but again, for a 19-year-old in his first season, yeah, I had no issues.
Another thing that is there, and that's why I opened the argument as well by saying that Cremonidis, of course, did not have a bad performance today. I'm just worried that certain pressure may get to him, but then I think that he has Mendilibar as his coach, and that worry goes away immediately. Uh, but another thing that was there, and I'm so happy that's there, is the chemistry with the rest of the team. Because it's not just that he didn't go on and look out of place. The plays that he made, the chances that he opened, you said the pass to El Kaabi, for example, he looks like he's been a part of this team for a solid few years at least. And for me, again, wasn't as effective, but he was as active as Zelson. Who God, do I hope that he's not here seriously? By the way, we'll get into that. I don't know if anything came out for the like half an hour I was on. Probably stuff will come out tomorrow. But Zelson once again proving that we needed him. But Pneumonides was as active and as crucial in unlocking that defense that again wasn't as annoying as Asteras, but still seemed impossible to break for a while. You just can't help but always worry with a Greek fan base that media and pressure will just get the player even the slightest. But maybe that's a force of habit of thinking as well with what we've seen in the past.
Well, I mean, it also helps as well, just to finish off that point, the fact that Muzakitis and Solakis and Kostulas have all come through in the past few years and been able to brave that and stake their claim. Having a guy like Muzakitis specifically, they're right around the same age, they were in the same youth league team. I think that'll be huge for him and helping him adjust. And it seems like he has the perfect mentality for it. I mean, we talked about this last season with Papacanelos and how he really wasn't able to carve out a place, and he's not with the team right now because I think he did let a lot of that get to him, and he let a lot of his own issues with his mentality, which again we can only speculate on, but it definitely did seem like he had a lot more weighing down on him than some of these other players. So I think that'll be positive for him to have around. And again, I mean, like we saw with Papaganelos, I think we would see very early on if he didn't seem like he could fit in and make it work, and that we've seen the complete opposite. So I was really encouraged again, and I think that he's only going to get better from here.
I can only, I mean, I too agree, but of course, I can only hope you are completely spot on in that department. Before I just let you go on about Chiquinho, because I did talk about him for however long you want. As I said, a player that proved how crucial and, dare I say, irreplaceable he is down the right wing, especially when Rodinei is not having the best of days, is Elson Martins. Zelson, perhaps he heard the news that he'll have a winger with equal playstyle and a good friend to him, hopefully in the team, and he was happier than ever. And he decided to remember that when you take on half the players and even more of the Greek Super League with the quality that Zelson has, you can beat them and drop them dead. And that's what we saw today. Crosses left, right, and center. Vision that we know that perhaps only he and Chiquinho have from our attack right now. And just that activity, that constant presence that we know Zelson can have. But of course, because it's Zelson, he went out injured. Because God fucking damn.
I mean, luckily it happened before we have a 2 week break, so there's that, and we know that he's not going to be participating in the international window. So if there's ever a time for him to go down with an injury, it's now. I mean, I definitely don't think that he went down easily or lightly because, like I mentioned, in that second half when he was starting to get space and separation between the Volos players, their response was to kick him flat in the middle of the calf, which I guarantee it seemed like that was his injury. I guarantee you it's probably just cramp or bruising. So he should be fine. He walked off looking fine. But that's the Super League again, and for a player like him who does have a reputation for being a little fragile physically, they're always going to go after that with these ogre center backs that have nothing better to do but put a boot through him. But like you said, again, he was fantastic. He was driving us forward, and the fact that this season we do have cover for him when he does get injured, which, again, this probably will not be the last time, as we saw in flashes with Strefetza coming on today and getting an assist within 10 minutes of his debut. I mean, Cabela didn't get as long on the pitch, but he still looked positive in flashes. The fact that we're going to have that cover for him, I think, is hugely positive, because it takes that pressure off of him. And I think part of what we saw last season at times was either Zelson having to play through an injury or having to measure out when he's going to give 100% because he knows he has a game on the weekend or he knows he has a European match midweek. I think this season with the squad depth we have, we might see a more unlocked Zelson Martins when we need him to be, because he knows that he can come off the bench the next game or he can get a game off because we have 2 or 3 other capable wingers. So I think that's what we saw from him today that we might not have seen last season, and hopefully we'll continue to see it, is just not having the pressure of being our only real winger that we can rely on for these sorts of performances.
If, because I would go on and say that is a need, but if we go on and say Zelson at his max, at his fullest, without restraining himself due to the fear of, I have to play this many games this season with barely any cover without getting injured for a while, I feel like that will be an even bigger boost than we could have ever expected in a winter. Now, the man, the myth, the Portuguese absolute legend and bargain of the team, I'll use the quote I used earlier in the episode to just intro you into letting you talk about Chiquinho and the goal and the assist for however long you want. And I'll use what Mendilibar said once again. You almost never see stuff like that in football, but when it comes to a player of the quality of Chiquinho, you come to expect this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it just brings you back to the fact that we brought him in for 500,000, some stupidly low number. I mean, we spent almost 5 million on fucking Velde, and we got this guy for literally 10% of that price. I mean, again, every time he plays, like I literally, I'm raking my brain trying to think of a bad Chiquinho performance for Olympiacos, and there's nothing. I mean, I really don't think he gets talked about enough, just how ridiculously talented he is as a footballer. I mean, I said it earlier. I think he might be the most technically gifted player we've ever had. And I don't think that's really that much of a hot take. And it's not just the ability, it's the consistency and it's the moments. I mean, today you could tell towards the end of this match, Chiquinho's limping. He's walking gingerly. I mean, he left everything out there, and yet he's still able to, in the 77th minute, backheel it across the goal into the far post, and then 5 minutes later he's able to do the same thing right into the path of RedSeaPodcast, who tucks it past Yabanis. I mean, to get that out of one of your players towards the end of a match when it's been physically rough, when he's had to, he's been banging his head against this low block for 80 minutes. That speaks to his ability as well. I mean, one of the things that I've said about him consistently is the best ability is availability. And we can talk about all of his technical gifts and all the skill that he has, but there's also the fact that Chiquinho is always fit. He's always ready. He's always playing. He might have missed, 4 or 5 games last season out of the 50 odd that we played. I mean, you run out of things to say for him. And I mean, I'm sure I could sit here and talk an hour about how important Chiquinho is to this team, but I mean, really, if we didn't get him in his late 20s, I mean, there's no physical way that we would have even held on to him for this long, because he is a ridiculous footballer. He's a ridiculous leader to have on the pitch. He's a great personality. He comes in. There's no ego. There's no anything. It's just he's going to be professional. He's going to give the team what we need. And I mean, I think really this season he's going to get to show again being that star in the middle, even with guys like Kaabi, even with guys like Zauson. I mean, you really do have to talk about Chiquinho in the same breath, because he is that good and he is that important. So today was just another example of that. And I think, having players like him who can break down a team with that sort of creativity that you don't expect, that's what sets Olympiacos apart from anyone else in Greece, from a lot of these other teams in Europe that are, outside of the big 5 leagues and looking to compete with the big boys. I mean, he has the kind of quality that would slot into one of these teams that we're playing in the Champions League. Chiquinho could play for Arsenal. Chiquinho could play for Barcelona, but he's playing for Olympiacos. And I think that, having a player of his ability and all the other intangibles that he has, I mean, that's what sets us apart. And you just can't say enough how incredible of a deal that was that we got for him. And he was really one of the main pieces that has turned this project around. If it wasn't for him, we don't have the season we have in 23-24, and we don't have the season we have last season. So he's right up there as one of our most vital players. And I don't think he gets talked about enough.
The absolutely only thing that I can say to just finish and top of what you said is, again, something I said earlier when I was talking about him for the probably 20 out of the 30 minutes I started. So, is that a bad day for Chiquinho is probably a good day for half of not even Greece, but European footballing world. It's not even a mediocre day. For most footballers, a bad day for Chiquinho is probably good day. And that enough, backed up by everything you and I have said, not just today, but many times, and what Chiquinho keeps proving, makes it all even more absolutely surreal that this man is indeed playing for Olympiacos. El Kaabi today, to just finish off the starting 11 and get into the subs slowly but surely. If only the goddamn goal counted. If only that goddamn rocket of a volley, because I am in no form of exaggeration. I said, where is Jolakis just completely punting that? So I could have never imagined that that would land in El Kaabi's way and that El Kaabi would score. But sadly, the offside goal is as stupid as it is, and I'll let you talk about that because you have way more to say than I do. And that goal was ruled off for no reason at all. Except from that, though, I think that El Kaabi was, ironically, because of the absence of the goal, I think that El Kaabi is finding his form even better again. He was way more active than expected. And I feel like that, as we said with Chiquinho, that if Chiquinho adapts 100% to the role that he has now, it's scary. If we get an El Kaabi that can come out of the box, carry the ball, steal it, cross it, whatever he did today, that's as scary, if not scarier.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, I've said,
go ahead,
go
sorry.
on, go on. Uh, it's something that I wanted to finish off saying that I said ever since preseason started. That I feel like, as ironic as that may sound from a 25 to 30 goal a season striker for us, I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I feel like we'll see the best of him this year.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I thought he was very good again today. When you're judging a striker, obviously you're looking at did he score and he didn't score, which is whatever. I mean, my little rant on the offsides rule is if the only parts of his body that are offside are the parts that he can't score the ball with, does he have an advantage? Both of his feet are behind the line, behind the defender. I mean, I don't know. I mean, given the technology that we have now, I think that rule needs to be amended. I think there needs to be some reasonable middle ground between, hey, your shoulder's offside, you can't have that goal. But I'll leave that to a minimum. We at least he got to go through the play and he took it very well. It was a classic El Kaabi goal. Made Siabanis look like an idiot, even though he'd been standing on his head all day. So at least he's getting through those motions at least. And I have no concerns that when he is on side or when he's given those opportunities again that he's going to bury him. And he's shown that he's been incredibly sharp to start the season. But I again bringing in perspective, you know, I talked about it last week, even when you know we were talking about bringing Yazici on or somebody else to be next to him as he's going forward. I think the issue that we see with and Kaabi a lot, especially in Greece when we're playing these teams with the low block, is he usually has two or three players around him at all time. It's usually the two center backs, and usually there's a midfielder dropping central as well. So that makes things very difficult for him. But that said, like you talked about, he was still finding openings. He was still a threat. And, the fact that he takes up so much attention in the middle, that's how you see our goals coming from the outside, right? I mean, that opens up space for Chiquinho to have the finish that he had, for Retsos to be, basically unmarked at the near post. It's because everybody's focusing on Kaabi. So I think even when he doesn't score, he's still contributing. And I think it's important to have that. And especially right now when we don't really have a backup striker with Yaremchuk still being, not fit, Aguilakis again being not really incorporated in the squad. You don't really expect to have him as an option. The fact that right now he's come in so sharply and been able to contribute, and he's been prepared from preseason. I think that's the difference this season from last. He came into preseason late last year. We didn't have that issue this time around. So I think it's been huge. We've had him these first 2 weeks, and then by the time we play our next league match, we should have another striker in, whether it's Yaremchuk being fit, whether it's Taremi being incorporated. So like with Justin Martins, like you said, I think we will start to see the best of El Kaabi this season because he will have cover. He will have support. There will be other players that can take some of that burden off of him as far as needing to be our number one striker every single game. Last season, obviously, we saw that improve as the year went on with Yaremchuk finding his form, but the first 6-7 months of the season, he looked pretty listless. So, I mean, again, El Kaabi having less pressure this season, less of a burden to carry for the team, I think will open things up for him. And, I'm sure we'll talk about the Champions League here in a minute, and I'll give my take on Kaabi for that. But he's going to introduce himself to Europe again. I mean, I think this season could potentially be his best European season with Olympiacos. So, I mean, I thought he was really positive again today. And again, it's looking at the intangibles he provides. I think a lot of times people will look at the box score and see that he didn't get a goal, but that doesn't tell the whole story.
The funniest thing for me, because we will get into the Champions League in a bit, and confirmed transfers and possible transfer coming in is just all the interactions once again with the Arsenal fans, just saying that we have a new Moroccan this time and that he is an even better goal scorer and scaring the ever loving shit out of them. That's been the funniest Twitter thing, along with the tweet from Gabriela saying that Real Madrid aren't ready for a new
We
El Cabe.
we've had multiple Villa fans. I mean, I commented under his picture from the Champions League page, saying, for the people who are asking who he is, because you have all those idiots under the comments. Oh, who's this guy? I was like, hey, this is going to be your competition top goal scorer this season. Like, pray your team doesn't have to face him. My entire mentions for that response were Villa fans being like, yeah, can confirm, sadly. So I mean, the fact that again an Olympiacos player has that reputation among some big clubs in Europe, I think says a lot. And yeah, I mean, he's he's going to tear up the Champions League the same way he tore up the Conference League and the Europa League, and I cannot wait till the 17th of September when that starts off, because he might start it with a fucking hat trick against Papos.
Easily. I think that we'll get into it game by game just as quickly as possible. But the fact that Paphos is the starting game, I don't think perhaps it could have been Kazakhstan solely to not make the trip to fucking Siberia in the middle of December. But aside from that, I don't think there could have been a more ideal game to start. And honestly, he's getting at least two, if not a hat trick. Yes, at minimum 2 goals. Um, Finishing off with the game before we get into everything else, the the only other person that really deserves a shout is the man that got his first assist for Olympiacos, and another proof, as we said privately, as I said today when starting off, that the new boys are gelling very, very well, and it's been a while since transfers have gelled so well coming in, and that's of course Strefeca, who, as you said earlier as well, when we talked about Selson, seems to be just that perfect fit to not only maybe start a few games, but cover off everything that Selson is missing when he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he came in and immediately made an impact. We saw flashes of this again in the friendlies, and that's why I thought it was funny when people were moaning incessantly about the results of those friendly matches. I was like, listen, this is why those were important and why the result didn't matter as much as the performances. And we're seeing it now with these first two matches, and like you said, the new guys incorporating so quickly and so easily. It's because we were playing weird teams against the A team of Inter, against the A team of Napoli. And he came in and he looked fresh. He looked like he, had familiarity with the guys around him, and really didn't step a foot wrong. Now, obviously, we'll wait to fully judge him until he plays a full match for us. Obviously, it's hard to really give a judgment on a player when he only plays for 20, 25 minutes. But he looked very positive when he came on both sides of the ball. I mean, that was one of the things we talked about with Strefetza and the value that he brings. He was already today tracking back too. I mean, after we scored the first goal, Volos were putting more pressure on, and Ortega and Rodine had pretty rough games today, and he was able to drop back and give that cover and alleviate some of that pressure. So I think there were a lot of encouraging signs from him, and I'm excited to see him starting games. I mean, I think as much as I've really enjoyed Benamonidis, I think his role is going to be better suited as an impact sub as the season goes on, starting situationally. But I think having Strefetza and Zelton Martins, or Remy Cabela or Taremi, if he plays out wide, having those two on your wings, that's huge for Olympiacos. And again, I'll go back to remember where we were last season. I mean, we had Velde and Palma and all of these absolute bums on the wings, and now we're talking about 4 or 5 guys that, I mean, would probably start for a good chunk of the Champions League, let alone in Greece. I mean, the quality that he already is obviously showing is really encouraging, and I think that he's going to be a hugely important player for us this season.
And again, it's apparently Greek fan DNA to underestimate your players, and I don't know why. But as you said, even if Strefezza doesn't start down the left, even if he fights with Svensson for the position, I feel like that will bring the best out of both of them, like you said earlier. And again, with the tracking back, it goes back to my point that Strefezza can come in and offer what Svensson doesn't, whether that's a more direct approach to the goal, whether that's the mindset to go score first, not assist to just pick your man, cut in, shoot it. Uh, Whether it's the set piece that Zelson doesn't have, the set piece ability that Rodine needs cover sometimes, as we've been seeing this season, or whether it is tracking back, especially when your right back has a bad day, like Roddy did today. It's it's all just perfect coverage, and I think the final bit of message to finish off the game talk portion is that hopefully, hopefully, with the two moves coming in, and hopefully the one more set to come, every position is not only covered with quality, not just once, but twice or even thrice in the midfield, but everyone covers each other in play style as well. The team, again, hope to God that the transfers that are said to be done, I mean, if Mancha is here, it's over, but hope to God Taremi is actually a done deal as is being presented, and hope to God as well that a proper goddamn left wing comes, whether that's Danny or whether that's whoever else comes in. Everything that we were talking about last week on picking tactics and playstyles will be in the depth of the squad. And with Mendilibar now being able with the new rule, because thank God the new rule that's been added is useful to have more people on the bench and to basically not needing to cut anyone from your matchday squad and having them all available as long as they're in the squad. Even if a starting 11 goes wrong, like it more or less did, I'm gonna more or less focus on last week on that and not this one. You'll have the options needed. And that is something Olympiacos never had. At least for the 11, 12 years that I've been watching football, Olympiacos never had that good of a cover. And that's an argument that I saw, which will transition as perfect into talking about Taremi, El Kaabi, Yaremchuk, and Mehdi Taremi is the best uh, three choices that the club has had combined ever, quality wise. Which I think even it's not that this isn't much of a hot take. I don't think this is a hot take at all.
No, I mean, I think those 3 guys, you go back the past 10, 15 years, other than the years we had Mitroglou, all 3 of those guys start for any other Olympiacos team. And I think for in the case of El Kaabi, he probably starts over Mitroglou. So, I mean, to have all 3 of them together at the same exact time is ridiculous. But I mean, you get, like you said, you can say that all across the pitch. You can say that for the wingers. I mean, Zelson Martin starts for most Olympiacos teams ever. Gabriel Strefezza starts for most Olympiacos teams ever. if we get Dani Potense back, I mean, look at the midfield. You just go on and on. I mean, the depth this team has is insane, and it's on par. You know, this is part of what I've been saying about the Champions League and why I'm so optimistic, even against some of these big clubs. We have the depth now. In past years, we didn't have the depth. So if the starters couldn't get it done, or if we had a tough league match the weekend before, we might have been out of luck because we just didn't have the players to match up. I think now Olympiacos has the roster to, in the middle of a season, compete with pretty much anybody. Um, and again, I mean, when you're playing a Champions League match, and you know, if Kaabi is having a tough game, you can pull Taremi off the bench, or if Strafetsa's having a tough game, you can pull Remy Capella off the bench. I mean, that's unreal. I mean, it's unheard of for Olympiacos. And that's, again, as this team progresses, which is part of what I think people don't talk about and realize enough, is like year after year we're building. We had 2 years ago when Mendilibar came in, we had a really good group. Last year we started to add a lot more of the top line quality, and then this year we're adding depth and we're filling out the squad, and it's a mix of youth and it's a mix of experience. We're not just going out and buying every 35-year-old has been, right? We have brought in some experience. I think guys like Cabela, I think guys like Taremi, who are experienced and have been there and have done that, are hugely important. But we're also bringing in the Nacimientos of the world and the Scipiones of the world, and we have our academy kids. There's just so much balance in this squad in every sense. Like you said, with the complementing play styles and skills, like it is with the depth positionally, like it is with, you know, where they are in their career, whether it's a young guy hungry to stake his claim, or whether it's, you know, a veteran where this might be their last Champions League campaign. I think having that balance and that variance throughout your squad is hugely important, and that's just, we haven't been able to think that multidimensionally before when building a squad out. But now that we're investing in the right places and we have a stable coach and we have a core, we're able to do that. So it's really exciting, and I think that's what's going to really make this year a very different season than Olympiacos fans are used to, because I really think we're more equipped to compete than we've ever been.
I mean, a position that we didn't really talk about, which is our next confirmed transfer, which is Gustavo Manso, of course. We're talking about one of Brazil's best talents at the back, and he's probably gonna be what, fifth choice centre back, fourth at best, and then you back that up with people like Brecates, who is your own boy. With we got Milicic, I'm pretty sure is his name, who captained Anderlecht's youth team, who is gonna be playing in the under 19s for us, probably at the start. The depth you have in every position, and I mostly talked about centre back and centre forward striker because those are the positions where we never really had depth, along with a fullback that has been covered thankfully for a while. But you have quality everywhere, and it's as you said, it's not just the play styles. You have just that perfect mix of veterans and younger guys, and even guys like Esse, even guys like Chiquinho that are in the 25 to 29, 30 age gap, that are in the middle of their careers and that are looking with different ambition and transitioning from that youngster just fire to that veteran mentality. You have everything. Olympiacos before now never had everything. And adding to that, of course, this 3-year plan played a part that we slowly had to dig ourselves out of that shithole of 45 players in whole year and 12 loans and 8 coaches and God knows what, that I think put us in a very deep financial hole, which goes back to a point that I made not last week, but on the show's return, basically on episode 100, uh, that the mentality has shifted in the entirety of the organization. And honestly, it couldn't have happened at a better year. Um, Champions League. Champions League. Where do I have it? But it still seems surreal. Up to a point, it's been like, you can't go without mentioning that it's been 5 goddamn years. We haven't been in the Champions League ever since Hassan was starting for us and scoring against Marseille. And
I
God
mean,
knows how that year went, by the way.
we had to have Rafinha playing left back against Manchester City. I mean that was thinking back to that Champions League campaign and how that was building up out of COVID and our squad was really weird. I mean, compare that to now. Oh my god! I mean, I feel like now the only feeling there is to feel is optimism for Olympiacos in the Champions League, and the certainty, in my opinion, that we can compete. I mean, I don't think there's any question Olympiacos are making the knockouts at all. I'm that's how confident and assured I am in this side. I mean, I can't remember ever going into a Champions League campaign like that. Usually, we were always hoping to finish third in the group and make Europa. And now, genuinely, I think it would be a massive failure if we didn't make the knockouts.
Yeah, but it's not just you, actually. Like, even the least optimistic fans, which is a lot of the great portion, uh, I don't think anyone has any doubt that we'll finish lower than 24th. And I was very pleasantly surprised to say that the majority are actually very optimistic. And a lot of people are even more optimistic than I am. And I said that we're getting 14 points. The difference is that for some reason, and that's the first time that I see that in general, and I think you agree. It's the first time I see Olympiacos going into a Champions League campaign and arguing in many, many, many air quotes about who we can beat and why we will not lose to that opponent and why we can get a point. I mean, come the fuck on. Give me a year on where we've both been watching football, so not the last time we faced them, where we realistically could say that, yeah, Real Madrid are coming to Paraskakis and we can get a point. That alone, you don't have to even say just putting four past Pajos, beating the Dutch team, getting a draw against Real Madrid, and that being a realistic scenario, not even that much of a stretch.
No, I mean, I think the difference for me is, in past years, I was always thinking like, can we just get a good draw? Can we avoid a group that has, Barcelona and Real Madrid and Arsenal in it? Like in past years, I would have seen that and I would be like, Jesus H Christ. Now, like when we drew Real Madrid, that was the first team we drew. I was over the moon. I'm like, we get Real Madrid at the Karaiskakis. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a match. And even if we do lose it, like I don't. In my least optimistic, prediction for that match, I mean, I still feel like we would fight them, you know, towards the end. I mean, I really can't see us losing any of these games by a super lopsided margin. I mean, we're definitely going to lose a couple of these games at least. But I don't see Olympiacos getting torn apart. Like I don't see, like a sporting match. I don't know if you remember that from what was it, 2017, where we concede 3 goals in the first half to Sporting at home. I mean, that's the sort of thing that I don't even think about it now because I'm so confident in the team and the manager. But yeah, I mean, I talking about the draw specifically. I mean, firstly, like we were saying with the squad, I think it's a very nice mix of like those marquee matches, and you get to have Real Madrid at home. You get to go to Camp Nou. You get to go to our holiday home in the Emirates. But you also get a nice mix of a lot of these matches where it's like, yeah, like we should be the favorites. Like those bottom four matches, we should be the favorites in all of those matches. And even the match against Leverkusen, I mean, a lot of people I think have been looking at them like the team we've seen the past 2 years. They have Eric Ten Hag as their manager now. They haven't won either of the first two Bundesliga games. I mean, I look at that game. To me, that should be another win. So I mean, I'm for the first time like really excited to get a Champions League campaign started because it's just like I really think there's a lot of opportunity for us. And I this is another thing I said, which again some people might hear this as a hot take. I think it's more possible we finish in the top 8 than we finish outside the top 24. I mean, I really do. It's hard for me to see multiple losses past maybe 2 in this campaign. I really think that we're gonna be competing in every single match.
That's not as hot of a take as you think, because even when you look at it statistically, I'm pretty sure that's the way it is as well. We have around a 7% chance to finish in the top 8, and I am more than sure that the chance to get knocked out is not bigger than 7%. Uh, Specifically focusing on Leverkusen, because aside from that, I'm pretty sure our two biggest differences in predictions were Leverkusen and Ajax. I said we lose to Leverkusen. As time goes on, I don't even think Leverkusen are going to have the same manager, because we face them in January. It's the second to last match. I'm pretty sure it's January 5th, 6th.
Let me pull it up because I cannot remember.
I'm pretty sure it's around there. And if Ten Hag continues like he is, for the love of God, I don't think he'll make it to the 7th match day.
Yeah, so we play them on the 20th of January. So not only do we play them in January, it's going to be the end of the month. If they're having a shit season, I mean, God forbid. I mean, I'm not saying I think they're going to be fighting relegation, but we've seen crazier things happen with some of these German teams who peak really high and then all of a sudden they're like barely staying up. If they're bottom half, you probably are looking at Eric Ten Hag getting fired. And I mean, who knows where they're going to be injury wise? I mean, part of the thing that I think looking at a lot of these teams, especially the teams that play in the big leagues, Leverkusen aren't going to be able to rotate. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Arsenal, to an extent, aren't going to be able to rotate before they play us. So I mean,
we're facing Barcelona very early.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I would have to look at their schedule and see who they play before that. I mean, they could have a big La Liga match before that. I think part of the thing as well, La Liga specifically, I think a lot of people look at that and say, oh, we drew the 2 biggest La Liga teams. Those are probably the ones that are going to have to balance the most between league play and European play, because La Liga is always like the closest league out of the top 5 usually. So, a Barcelona, Real Madrid, I mean, they're probably going to be neck and neck for a title. And every match in the league is going to be super important to them. So, I mean, again, we've even seen it in the past few years. Obviously, both teams had a pretty strong European campaign last year, but in some of the past years, they've looked vulnerable. I mean, Real Madrid lost to a Moldovan team a few years ago. Barcelona was getting thrashed by Benfica. I mean, so crazier things have happened. And I think part of that just does go back to the fact that they do have a more strenuous schedule, and usually their league is a lot closer. But as far as Leverkusen goes, I mean, I look at that. I think that's a win. And then, like you said, our difference was I thought we would lose away to Ajax. We play Ajax last. So I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, because Ajax are probably going to be fighting for a place around that time, and we might not be. So I could potentially see that. Again, I really haven't had time to look at the order of the games too closely, but it'll be interesting to see. And I think those last 2 games can always be weird, because either teams have fired a manager like we anticipate will probably have in Leverkusen, or they're going to be fighting for a place at the end, and you never know how it's going to swing.
If I'm not completely mistaken, off the top of my head, it's Paphos in 2 weeks on the 17th. Then it's Barcelona.
Arsenal.
Then it's Arsenal.
Arsenal, Barcelona, 2 matches in a row.
Yep, Christ above. Then it's Eindhoven. Then it's Real Madrid. Then it's Kazakhstan in the start of December. Then it's Leverkusen, and then it's Ajax. I'm pretty sure that's how stuff goes. And I'm kind of gonna combat what you said with how La Liga is this season. I don't really think Madrid will have that big of a chance in La Liga. I'm not saying they're gonna be like third or fourth like they were 2 seasons ago, but I don't think they'll keep up that much. In the rotational department, I would kind of look at Arsenal more because I think that for the first year, seriously, especially since we're facing them in October, where literally every single game matters in that goddamn league. If we face them later, I will tell you that yeah, it's just La Liga. But since we're facing them so early, and since Arsenal are a team with such problems injury-wise specifically, I think that the chance to get a result in the Emirates is getting bigger and bigger with the schedule that we have. But in that regard, I think losing to Barcelona is getting as certain as they get. Now the Real Madrid game being match day 5. Again, I'm more focusing on certainty on the first 4, and then the games that we know, like will be, even we've got the -5, we know will beat Kairat. Like it's not even a Bodo situation. There is no way we're losing to Kairat. And Leverkusen, the only reason that I'm not focusing there is that, as I said, they could be a completely different team by the 20th. And Ajax is what you said, even though I'm still confident because I believe that if stuff goes well, maybe we're fighting for a place as well, and that place is the goddamn top 8. I'm still more confident on Ajax than I am on the unpredictable one of Leverkusen. But honestly, with how we start, after a point we may not even need to worry that much because because I do believe that at least around match day 6, like before those 2 that are the most divisive in general, will have locked in the knockouts. I think that's a safe bet. I don't think we will have a chance of being knocked out.
I mean,
after 6 games, which probably will have what 6, 7, 8, probably 11 points.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very real possibility we could have 9 points after our first 4 games. I mean, I really do think that match away at Arsenal, I think, is the most important match of the campaign. And the reason I say that is because, like, if we beat Arsenal, obviously, like you said, I'm pretty confident we lose to Barcelona too. If we beat Arsenal, do you really think there's any chance we're going to lose at home to Paphos or PSV? If we beat Arsenal, we're going into that 5th match day against Real Madrid with 3 wins. I mean, I think that will swing. I mean, the difference between going into 2 wins and 3 wins and being, that well on course by that point, I think could really determine the rest of the campaign in the sense of, are we having to go and get some of these difficult results? Because, I mean, like you said, I believe we'll beat Kairat, but that's going to be a hell of a game. I mean, I looked, because this is my concern, the average high in December in Kairat, and again, we're playing there later in the month, so it's probably going to be even lower than this. The average high for the month of December is 2 degrees Celsius. They average 11 snow days a month in December. So chances are it's going to be snowy. It's going to be below zero. And it's a weird time. We're going to be coming off of a 6 or 7 hour flight. That's going to be a tough match. I really do think that'll be a tough match. I think we'll win it, but I would not be surprised if we lose or draw that just because of the circumstances there being ridiculous. We saw what happened at Buda last season. I don't want to put any negative thoughts out there, but that's just what we're going up against. I really think those first 4 games, how we come out of those first 4 will determine how the rest of the campaign goes. Because if you can get 3 wins there and you can get a God forbid, a result against Real Madrid, all of a sudden that match in Almaty, it's like, yeah, I mean, we go there and try to win it, but if we don't, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And the same sort of thing, the Leverkusen match, the Ajax match, I think we just really need to take care of business. Those first 4, that first half, and then from there, you can kind of take each game as it comes. But it'll be interesting. And I mean, I think the way that the matches line up, it's just, I don't know. I feel like the way that the schedule falls is just like there's no real run. I feel like of easy matches. There's no real run of difficult matches. It's just like everything's very mixed up. So it'll be interesting to see how we approach it and how the results come, because that's as big a part of this as the draw. I think is the the order of the matches as they come. I mean that'll have as much of an effect on us as the actual team we're playing.
Well, I think the schedule fell as well as it could have regarding the draw, honestly. And if we somehow, some way get a win against Arsenal, I am calling it already. It will be 0-0 up until the goddamn 89th minute, and then somehow El Kaabi scores. Somehow El Kaabi scores. Like, if the game keeps going and Arsenal keep missing chance, I mean, aside from it being the unwritten rule of football that if you don't take your chances, you'll eventually get scored on. Uh, I don't know that I will stop laughing for the rest of the campaign if something like that goes on to happen. And
Well, I mean,
I don't know that Aston Villa fans will stop laughing as well for the rest.
yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the fans earlier and how it affects players. You really think the Emirates is going to be a fun place for Arsenal to play if it's 0-0 in the 75th minute, 0-0 in the 85th minute? You don't think that is going to be the most anxious stadium on planet Earth? I mean, that game, I cannot wait for that game. I think that's the game I'm most excited about for this entire campaign because, Arsenal are a funny side where we have this history with them, and I know deep down they know we're a serious side, but every time we play them, it's the same thing. I mean, you go through all the comments yesterday, the day before, every Arsenal fan and their dog is saying, "Oh, that's an easy win. Oh, we're 3-0. We're gonna smash them." We have a 3-game win streak at the Emirates. 2 of those came against Mikel Arteta, with teams that are half as good as the side we have now. Granted, I understand that Arsenal have improved a lot, but I mean, the fact that we are playing them there, I mean, I would have been less confident had we drawn them at home because it seems like we do worse against Arsenal when we play them at the Karaiskakis. I think the key to that game is just going to be, like you said, keep it close for as long as we can. Arsenal will shit their pants. The stadium will shit their pants. It'll get anxious. They're going to start getting on their own players. It'll happen. We're going to out-sing them already with our 8,000 fans. We know that. Make that game ugly. Play a Volos. Play an Asteras. Tuck men behind the ball for 50 minutes. Get them nice and anxious, and then we can let our guys go. I mean, I am so excited for that match. And like you said, if we pull off a result there, especially if we pull it off in dramatic fashion, oh my God, it's going to be the greater than anything we've ever done there. And we've obviously made some incredible memories at the Emirates.
especially with the importance that you very correctly said that it will have. I feel like it will be as, if not more important than our last win. And someone needs to continue the LRB's tradition. Someone needs to. Because that stat that there is only two players that have scored in consecutive matches in the Emirates, and that's Lionel Messi and fucking El Arabi, is something that I will never forget.
We need to find a way.
Someone needs to continue.
I don't know if, because I don't even know where is he still at Apoel?
El Arabi moved to Ligue 1 and Nantes in the
That's
summer.
right. That's right. He's not going to have a European match that night. Nantes is not far from London at all. I think we need to fly him out and have him in the stadium just for the presence and the juju. I don't know what it is. Get him there. I want Yusuf Al-Arabi there to watch us do the trick again with Ayoub Al-Kaabi. I mean, man.
Valbuena will already be there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
God, it's gonna be such an insane year. It's gonna be such a good year. And if somehow I can make that game against Madrid, that will be even more insane. That will be unreal. It's as we talked about. Like, no, you barely probably, if even, and I don't remember that game against Madrid in the slightest on the 7-8 season.
No, I mean, it was almost impossible to watch Olympiacos matches in 2013, 2014. It was completely impossible to go those matches here back in 07, 08. I mean, but again, like I just think back to a lot of these big matches we've had, from the time that I have been able to watch, and it's just like I've never had this optimism and this excitement. Like it really feels like now with the team where it's at, like we just get to enjoy the moment and the occasion. And I mean, again, we have the chance to get a result in any and all of these matches. And I don't think that's something you've ever been able to say about Olympiacos before at this stage.
I mean, even the idea of getting top 8 in the Champions League, like it is now.
Aston Villa did it last season, and we beat them 6-2. Not even a year before that. I mean, listen, it can happen. It's not crazy.
Mendilibar himself has proved that nothing is impossible. But go Darwin for an incredible year. Transfer-wise, we didn't talk that much, but for sure stats will be posted soon enough. Most stats I have to give credit to you from now on, as we've said, because stats isn't my specialty that much, as has been seen. And to close with an even more positive message, let's hope we see a very familiar face back soon.
I mean, if Danny comes back, top 8 is happening. I don't care. I mean, as long as we don't get killed by injuries this season, I'm like, yeah, that's I've seen enough.
I mean, it's what you said about Syria. Aside from Zelson, we don't have any injury-prone players, which again is a rarity for Olympiacos. Like, who's injury-prone from the team? Then maybe yes, Diaz, but solely because he had that big one last season, not
Yaremchuk.
really for Yaremchuk, yeah.
But we have three strikers now, so I mean, it doesn't matter. Like you said, we don't have any real injury-prone players, but even if we did, we'd be fine. I mean, we're covered triply in basically every position, so uncharted territory for sure.
Yeah, exactly like you said. And very fittingly, I think this is one of our biggest episodes yet. I think we've done 153 at some point, maybe. And we've just hit 150. God them.
Wow.
Closing off, as I opened, we'll definitely come in with some transfer chatter episodes within the week for Taremi, Mancha, and hopefully one more. And tomorrow, if scheduling goes well, the Red Sea Chronicles are right back, as had been announced. Thank you for hopping on, man, and making the episode as amazing as it always is when it's both of us. And in general, we'll talk soon.
Yep.
Thank you.